Okay, so this video is going to be on the miscellaneous settings on how to adjust your car in the NASCAR Heat 5 game, and I think actually it would apply to Heat 4 or Heat 3, but this is the miscellaneous settings. It's a lot to go through. I'm going to try to get through it efficiently, so let's just jump right in. Let's start with Camber. The Camber. Think of it as bigger numbers, not necessarily positive and negative, and I can explain what positive and negative are if anybody really needs to know. But you want the left side to be positive, you want the right side to be negative. Bigger numbers are going to help the car turn left. When I say bigger, I mean a higher number, not necessarily moving the negative 2.5 to negative 1.5. I mean moving it from negative 2.5 to negative 4 is going to help the car turn left. The camber settings, though, you pay a price for them. The more aggressive you get with them, meaning the bigger numbers you put up there, the more the car is going to turn left, but the more the tires are going to wear. So achieving a happy balance between getting the car to turn without wearing out the tires too quickly is what you're trying to do with the camber. But know that the bigger numbers make the car turn better. The smaller numbers are going to make it turn not as good. But again, there is a trade-off there with tire wear. The front sway bar. The front sway bar affects more corner entry to middle than it does corner exit. But a lot of times, if you are struggling on entry, you're going to be struggling on exit too. But the front sway bar, the number here represents how thick the sway bar is. So this is like 1.5 inches. A thicker sway bar is going to make the car tighter and not turn as well. But a thinner sway bar, a smaller number, is going to kind of help the car turn. But the way I think of it is if you get in a car and you go around a turn at a high speed and you make a left-hand turn, you feel the car roll to the right. The sway bar affects how much it's going to roll, okay? So a softer sway bar is going to let it roll a lot. A stiffer sway bar is not going to let it roll as much. So what that equates to is if you go to a smaller sway bar, it may feel like the car is turning better, but it may not show up on the stopwatch, so you may not turn faster lap times. And by what I mean is, what you've got happening is think of it this way: as instead of the car taking its energy and changing directions, meaning turning left, it is using that energy to roll the body over to the right side. So you feel like you're turning, but it may not show up on the stopwatch, if that makes any sense. I try to run as thick of a sway bar as I can while still getting the car to turn. I almost feel like a thicker sway bar makes the steering in the car more responsive, but it'll make it tighter at the same time. So what I try to do is run as thick of a sway bar as I can get away with while still being able to make the car turn. Um, Rear sway bars are not really used except for road courses, and I'm really trying to do setups to try to explain how this works on ovals. I can do stuff to talk about how these things work on road courses if anybody wants to know it on a separate video. But this is our oval, so we're going to skip rear sway bars. The track bars. Track bars are one of my favorite adjustments. I love being able to mess with the track bars. The left track bar, well, let me go talk generally in track bars. The track bars, higher numbers make the car looser, lower numbers make it tighter. The track bar, this is how much you're raising and lowering that track bar when you're changing these numbers, and that's in terms of inches. Now, the left track bar generally affects corner entry more than exit. The right track bar affects corner exit more than corner entry. The right track bar is a huge adjustment for me. When you have got a car that you want to, it seems like it wants to get loose when you get on the throttle, or it snaps sideways when you step on the gas, adjust your track bar down. That is a track bar adjustment. There's all kinds of different things that I think of a car being tight or loose and it being a symptom of a specific thing depending on how it's acting. So if it's wanting to snap loose, that's usually a track bar. The right track bar is a big adjustment for me. The left track bar as well, but again, one is entry, one is exit. The other thing that I would tell you, as much as higher is looser and lower is tighter. The bigger gap you have between the two, the looser the car is going to be. The lower gap you have between these two numbers, the tighter it's going to be. I'm not sure I can exactly explain from a physics standpoint how that works, but that's what you see. So if you have like a gap of 3 or 4 inches between a left and right track bar, you're going to have a really loose car most likely. Um, so let's see what else. Oh, generally I always run the right track bar higher than the left. That will be rare exceptions to tracks where I just have an awful time getting loose off corners. I think Richmond is one where I have the right track bar lower. Brake bias, and I'm trying to get through these quickly and not make this video too long. I like a higher brake bias, like at a road course or a track where I have to use a lot of brakes. I will run it up to like 90%, which is as high as you can go. It seems like the more front brake bias you have, you can slow the car down with less effort, so you don't have to get on the brakes as hard. At some tracks, and I don't know exactly why, but like Richmond comes to mind, it seems like if you got a high front brake bias, you try to get on the brakes, the car is going to want to go up the track. It's almost like it's not only that it doesn't want to turn, almost like it feels like it's pulling to the right. If I'm noticing that when I'm hitting the brakes, I will bring the brake bias down to where it's more even, like 50, 60%. In this game, there's not very many tracks where you actually have to use very much brakes at all, so it's not that big of a deal. But like I said, I noticed at Richmond specifically, man, you hit the brakes and you got that brake bias up at 80, 85%. The car wants to pull right. So I have noticed that, and I will adjust accordingly. But Richmond, I think, is the only track I really noticed that at. But again, generally, it seems like the higher number, it's more front brake. You can stop the car with less effort. Grill tape is a little bit something I think that's overlooked. More grill tape is going to give you more of the grill closed off, less air getting in. You're going to run hotter, and I actually don't know why I didn't put that in there, but I think that's pretty self-explanatory that you would run hotter with more grill tape. But you also have slightly higher straightaway speed. The other thing that the grill tape does is more tape helps the car turn better, probably because it's got more downforce and more aerodynamic. It's not a huge difference. It's a pretty slight impact, but it will help the car turn a little better by putting more grill tape on there. And obviously, that is a bigger impact at bigger tracks where you're carrying more speed. You know, if you're doing it at Martinsville, it probably has no impact. If you're doing it at Michigan, it has a little more impact because, you know, the aerodynamics are more important at those high speed tracks. Um, the wheel lock. The wheel lock, it's hard to get my hands around a wheel lock, and I'm not sure this is the best explanation of it, but think of it as almost like making the wheel more responsive, okay? That when you turn it, it's going to react quicker. Uh, pardon me. But the wheel lock, I usually run it somewhere between 10 and 12, 12 at probably 80 or 90% of the tracks. But lower numbers on that wheel lock seem like that make the wheel a little bit more responsive and makes the car looser as a result because that input you're giving is translating to the wheels quicker. So the lower numbers make the wheel more responsive and as a result make the car feel slightly looser. I don't think it's a huge impact, but it definitely is an impact. And then the steering offset. The 0.125 is what I run at probably 80% of the tracks, but this affects how much, if you got the wheel pointed straight, the tires are actually turning left. And this is more useful at tracks like maybe, say, Martinsville, where you really have to turn the wheel a lot, or New Hampshire. The higher that steering offset, the more the wheels are turned to the left, even though you got the wheel straight. So I usually run about a 0.125, but at tracks where you got to turn a lot anyway, I will put more wheel offset in it. Um, but that's what the wheel offset is doing, and really I think it makes it easier on you because you don't have to crank the wheel so much to make a sharp left-hand turn. So this is getting to be a pretty long video. I'm going to wrap it up here, but that is the miscellaneous settings. Hope it was useful to you. Hope you liked it. Please do me a favor. If you like this, found any part of it useful, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. You'll get some great content, some great setups, some miscellaneous tips like this to help you make your cars go faster. I work really hard to try to put out good content, and your support, believe me, it is greatly appreciated. So thank you guys so much, and have a great evening.